Hey guys, welcome back to week 2 of my Apoctober process and lore videos. For those of you just joining us on this episode, welcome. Today we'll be looking at some time-lapse drawing footage of my last 7 Apoctober prompts. What's Apoctober? Well, check the first video in this series out from last week to catch up on everything that you need to know. Before we get started, I'm going to give a big thank you to all of our patrons. You guys are what keeps this channel going, and it means the world to have your support. Let me also shout out real quick our partner Inked Gaming. Check out their site using the link in the description. They've got all sorts of great gaming merch designed by independent artists, and the money that you spend on their products goes to support those hardworking creative folk. Use the code Subjectively10 at checkout for a 10% discount site-wide. Last week, a few people asked me if I could include some words about my technical process in addition to the lore for each character, so this week, that's exactly what I'm going to do. And if we're all ready to go, let's dive into week 2 of Apoctober. Hope you like them. They were here before us. Before anything, I guess. Anything we consider to be reality. And they were here, right in this very spot. Thousands of years ago, when the earliest civilizations began to form, they paid us a visit. One appeared here, the other in South America, and the third at the very center of the South Pole. We have proof confirming their presence, the destruction that they caused, and what they left behind. It seemed like their purpose was not to bring about the end of the world. They could have, if they wanted to. Now, from what we've found, it appears that they were searching for something, and I don't think they found it. The question isn't if they'll come back, it's what they'll do when they return. Data collected at the sites where the ancient beasts known as the Censors appeared reveals almost identical scenarios occurring at 3 separate locations around the world. Carvings, recordings, and other relics from the humans affected by the events seem to point to some sort of hunt by the beasts, searching for something hidden in one or all 3 of those places. We can search Providence as best we can, but the expeditions we've sent to South America and Antarctica have come up empty-handed. Lately, we're lucky to get even one survivor back from their voyages. This was the first piece I had done for this series that ended up being entirely silhouette. Working without any values or solid shapes forces you to think more about the core design of your character. Things like negative space, weight, proportions, and shapes are the focus of a silhouetted character design, and while you don't always have to render your characters in one solid color and value, it's a good exercise to practice with for character design in general. Not to mention it gives a very ominous and mysterious feel to a piece, kind of makes the whole thing feel like an ancient carving or like a print or something. Turns out that Bonneau isn't the only portal beast that has fallen victim to mortal vices. When Evacoitus first made its appearance, we didn't even know it was a portal beast, let alone dangerous. It called itself Effin, and it looked like, it looked like a man. Okay, I almost fell for it. Thank God Bonneau saw through the disguise before it was too late. Unfortunately, not everyone who meets it is so lucky. Its desire to seduce and consume mortals is second only to the desire those same mortals have to be with it. It can turn itself into pretty much whatever you want most, and it's hard to remember the danger. I wonder where he is now. Evacoitus the Insatiable is a portal beast with a vested interest in humans and the human world. It loves mortals, but not in the nice way. It's a shapeshifter that in most senses can be described as an incubus or a succubus. It spends a long time with its victims, getting to know them and learning as much as it can about mortal tendencies. It seems like it enjoys having people fall in love with it. And when its prey has fallen completely under its spell, it gets its ultimate satisfaction by devouring the human in every way, slowly and with relish. The strategy for removal is currently unknown. We need to find someone who is completely impervious to any kind of physical attraction. So, lust is definitely a tricky prompt when designing a character. There are a lot of obvious solutions. Most often, lust is represented by a sexualized female character like succubus or something like that. I wanted to avoid that with this design, not only because it's kind of played out and it's a stale interpretation of the word, but it seems a little unfair to portray a feeling that all people experience as a sexy woman when not all people feel lust towards a sexy woman. For me, I thought the idea of desire in its most raw form would work best for kind of a Lovecraftian theme, so I used the silhouette of two people instead of one to capture the sexual side of lust. I also think that lust can be connected to things like hunger and greed and violence, so where the two humans in the design connected, I thought it would be appropriate to add some sort of giant mouth with a long prehensile tongue that could reach and grab and pull things in. I definitely took a lot of inspiration from The Thing with this design. There was a full moon last night. Actually, full doesn't even begin to describe it. It felt like it took up the whole sky. The tide was higher than it's ever been, but the real horror came the next morning when we saw what the tide had left behind. It looked like a shark, maybe a whale. It was hard to tell exactly what it was, but the whole city smelt that thing. The cops roped off the beach. I think their plan was to blow the thing up. I watched the demolition crew plant dynamite inside the bloated corpse, but something wasn't right. I've seen some of those men before. They're part of Blackwater, I'm sure of it, and I might be crazy, but I could have sworn I saw one of those guys pull something out of the body. What could they have found inside of that horrible thing? We've concluded that the anomaly that washed up on the beach that morning was not of this world. Any scientist would have reached the same conclusion, but Blackwater got to it first. They ripped the thing apart and found something inside that Don Karcharan has been looking for a very long time. Despite the power that the amulet grants him, Karcharan is not immortal, and like every good gang leader, he has been searching for an heir to replace him when he passes on. He found it inside that dead creature on the beach. Most mafiosos try to keep the business within the family, but it looks like the Don has some innovative new ideas for his future. I included this prompt in Apoctober because for a lot of people, birth can be just as scary as death. Fetal imagery is very popular in the horror genre, but I wanted to tie in the nautical themes that are often associated with Lovecraft-inspired stories. I referenced both humans and shark fetuses to create this design, and it's creepy for sure, but I probably could have gone further with it. What do you do when a princess from another dimension appears in your bedroom and asks you to kill your city's mayor? I sure as hell didn't know, but I can tell you what not to do. Decline. She was pissed. She didn't do anything to me at the moment, so I thought everything would be fine. Now I come home to a room shredded to ribbons. My clothes, my sheets, curtains, even the posters on my wall, all torn up and strewn around the house. I don't think it's going to stop, not until she gets what she wants. I need to find her again and learn a little bit more about this proposition. A political assassination might be worth it if it means my underwear will be safe from harm again. She goes by Lady Malacostrica, though it's possible that it's not her true name. When she first appeared on our plane of existence, she claimed to be a princess in her own world. We don't know if this is true, but we do know that she is capable of destruction on at least a minor scale. She has some business with the mayor of Providence, Joseph Gaynor. What their connection may be, or to what degree of severity and retaliation his actions warrant, is yet to be decided. Maybe it has something to do with the expansion of the port. Did he displace her kingdom? Or could this be a simple case of a woman scorned? I love crabs. I think I've mentioned this before. I really didn't need to include this prompt for Apoctober, but again, I was sticking with the nautical Lovecraftian theme, and I thought I could get away with it. Crabs can definitely be creepy looking. I don't really understand why people think spiders are gross, but they will still eat a crab. Anyway, I wanted to get really creative with how I made this prompt into something really unearthly. Looking at the underside of a crab, I realized that I could easily create something that looked enough like a human face, using all of the different plates and legs and claws that make up the bottom half of a crab. It's a little abstract, but this was my favorite design of this week. I plan on doing a full body of this character at some point. We got called out to this old farm a few miles outside of the city. We leave tomorrow. Apparently, there have been several cases of missing children out there. Mr. Tinner, the man who owns the property, says that for the past few nights, he's seen kids wander out into his cornfield just as the sun goes down. Whenever he goes out to look for them, though, he can't find any evidence that anyone has been there at all. The Hunter's Hope Club thinks that there's something suspicious about the whole ordeal, so we're going out to investigate. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't nervous. As horrifying as some of the things we've encountered so far have been, at least they were in the city. Something about hunting a portal beast out in the middle of nowhere really gives me the creeps. Mo, as the children call it, is a portal beast charged with the task of harvesting mortals untainted by sinful desire. It has taken on many forms, but of late it has found the guise of a scarecrow to be the most fitting for its needs. It tends to target young children, as their minds and spirits are still pure. Because of this, its preferred method of hunting is to lie in wait and draw its prey to it, rather than chase them down itself. Now it sits in a desolate cornfield, emitting some sort of soft tune that seems to hypnotize children for miles around. They're drawn to it inexplicably and cannot be broken by their days by what seems like any means. Adults or anyone with a tainted soul cannot hear the song, but it knows well enough to stay far away from anyone who cannot fall under its spell. As much as I've been enjoying creepy Apoctober, I did want to include some of that vintage Halloween festivity into this month. I used silhouette design again for this character, and I managed to find like a middle ground between kitschy, cute, and spooky. The other advantage of silhouette design, as you can see here, is kind of implying ambiguity with shapes. This came in especially handy with the prompt harvest, as I can include this big ambiguous mass underneath the scarecrow that could be interpreted as many different things. Kind of like this big collection of souls, maybe. A construction worker doing renovations on the First Baptist Church came into the Hunter's Hope Club last night. He had in his truck some stone carving that he claimed was found jutting out of the roof of the church. The roof has no gargoyles, it's never had any, is what he said. Apparently, it wasn't the first time he found one of these things. In fact, renovations on the church have been delayed significantly because of these statues, and they're popping up in strange places all around the property. He says it's been weeks now without any respite from the thing, and both the construction workers and the members of the church are starting to suspect demonic activity. I don't tend to agree with accusations based off of religion, but these guys may have a point. There are mortals who served the Ancient Ones as priests or disciples of their power. They've existed for centuries, lurking in the shadows of society. Those among their order who have achieved full enlightenment from their gods are transformed from their human state and ascend to a form beyond physical existence. When this happens, a statue is carved in honor of that disciple, and is left in the place of their ascension. We've seen it before, but never so many in such a short period of time. The church must be investigated. Something entirely new to our knowledge may be happening under that ancient building. I don't often draw inorganic things. Part of why I included gargoyle on this prompt list was to force me to draw something more structural rather than living. I ended up having a lot of fun with this, though. I combined images I referenced from old churches, and I set up this whole composition with some implied space, foreground, and background. That's another thing I don't do too often, so this was nice practice for me. As often is the case, I learned a fun new trick for myself to imply stony texture with black and white ink and line work. So try new things, everyone. It really can only help. This has been the most destructive portal beast that we have encountered so far by a huge margin. If this battle had taken place in the city and not out at sea, I don't even want to think about what might have happened. It was strange. She approached us in human form at first. She stated very clearly her intentions on Earth. She was here to destroy and reform the surface of our planet. But first, she wanted to kill me. I don't understand it. If she was going to wipe out all life on Earth, why bother killing me, personally? I guess whatever the reason was, it was fortunate that she had that little caveat for bringing around the apocalypse, because it gave me a chance to lure her out into the open ocean. She revealed her true form to me right before she died, a massive, looming tower of flame with strange floating arcs and spears dancing around in the fire. The sky filled up with steam and smoke as she sunk into the abyss, and the ocean boiled. It is unclear whether or not Tyria is some sort of ancient god or perhaps an alien species from our own universe. When encountered, she identified herself as a servant of Mercury, which we at first assumed was some reference to Roman mythology. But her purpose on Earth, to terraform the planet in the image of the first rock from the sun, led us to believe that perhaps she herself was from the planet Mercury, rather than a disciple of some Roman god. Either way, the beast had some strange connection to Celeste and expressed an explicit desire to kill her while remaining in an unassuming human form. This kind of interaction between Portal Beast and mortal has not once yet been observed. However, the outcome of their interaction will prevent us from looking into this matter any further. I added an additional challenge for myself with the final prompt of this week. Create convincing fire that is composed of solid dark shapes, rather than bright, saturated loose marks. It's tempting when rendering fire to just use a soft brush and smear yellows and reds all around, but when you really look at flames, they do have tangible shapes to them that can be represented with monochromatic shapes with no value. You can use these shapes to imply motion and speed. It's a fun exercise, and I recommend it. It's worth practicing. So those are the 7 prompts from week 2 of Apoctober. What did you guys think? Which was your favorite? Let me know down in the comments. And before we end today's video, let's take a look at some of your designs from this week. A lot of great ideas. It's so cool to see all of your work. I can't wait to see what you come up with for next week. Keep creating. Happy Apoctober, and I'll see you in the next video.